narod Bovel shom yoshavnu gam bachinu b'zachrenu es Tzion. Everyone knows by the waters of Bavel, of Babylon, when the Jews were led from the Churban Bayit Rishon, the first destruction of the first temple, the Jews were led into the land of Bavel, of Babylonia. And David HaMelech writes, David HaMelech, who is the poet of Klal Yisrael, the Noyam Zmiros Yisrael, our poet, our writer of songs, his description of the ultimate brokenness of Klal Yisrael, the metaphor he uses is by the waters of Babylon. The Jews took their famous David. We visualize, anyone ever draw a paint, conceive of a picture of King David, he's always standing next to his harp. The Kinar Shel David. So David describes the depth of the suffering that on the waters of Babylon, there we took Sham Talinu Kinoi. He hangs his kinar ala rovin b'soicha talinu kinoi reisenu. On the willow branches growing on the banks of the rivers of Babylon, I hung up my harp. There's no room for a harp in this new land. And I want to focus on one little word that no one talks about in this story, in this quote. A seemingly minor detail that I think will change the entire perspective on Tisha B'Av, on suffering, on pain, on Churban, on Tsar, on Avelut, on all these things. David HaMelech took his harp and he hung it on an arava. Al aravim b'soicha. What's an arava? We all know what an arava is. An arava, of anyone who went to Jewish school, learned all the midrashim, that arava is the saddest thing in the world. There are 4 species we take on Sukkot: the etrog, the hadassim, the lulav, and the arava. And we take the arava. The arava, everything has different aspects, different abilities, different traits. The arava represents the thing that has nothing. It has no tam, no reach, no smell, no taste. And the Medrash says that means, or the Gemara says that's parallel to mitzvot and masim tovim. And everyone in the world, some people have mitzvot, some have masim tovim, but the arava represents the person who has nothing. The arava is the most broken, the worthless, the thing that has no redeeming value. But then we open up the Gemara, and the Gemara tells us that there are 7 levels of Shemayim. Everyone knows the 7 levels of Shemayim. We might not know what they're called. I'll tell you what they're called. There's Shamayim, and there's Shmei Shamayim, and then there's Shchakim, and then Zvul, and then Ma'on, and then Mechon. And then the highest level number 7 of heaven, the highest level of heaven, you know what it's called? It's called Aravot. Aravot is the 7th level of Shemayim. You may have heard of it. We sing in the Hoshanas on Sukkot, we say, Rochev ba'aravot, Hoshiana. We sing on Shabbat, the Zmirah, that everyone sings, Rochev ba'aravot, Melech Olamim. You know that song? Hashem is called the Rochev Ba'aravot. Why is Hashem called Rochev Ba'aravot? Because Aravot is the highest level of Shemayim, and Hashem is riding Rochev al Aravot. He's above the entire world. There's an entire world, and on top of everything is the Borei Olam. He's Rochev Ba'aravot. That describes the supremacy, how high, how mitromem, how high, how ram Hashem is. Hashem is so high, he's the Rochev Ba'aravot. He's on top of the top. But let me ask you a question. If the arava is the worst thing, arava is the most broken thing, it has no tam, it has no reach, no taste, no smell, nothing. So how could it be that the same word represents the holiest of the holiest of the holiest, the 7th level of Shemayim? And the answer is the most powerful thing. The answer is that there's 2 ways to climb a ladder, 2 ways to reach Shemayim. There's 2 ways to achieve holiness. The one way to achieve holiness that we all know is we climb the ladder. We work through our lives, and we work, and we struggle, and we cry, and we get to Shemayim, and then we get to Shmei Shemayim, and then we'll get to Shchakim, and Ma'on, and Machon, and maybe after many hundreds of years, and children and grandchildren, each generation going further in Kedusha will be zoched that somebody will be able to reach the highest levels. This is a project of dorot, of generations, and of eons, to reach such a level, to climb the ladder. But then there's a whole different way, not to climb the ladder. There's the person on the bottom, crushed and broken. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I can't climb. I'm not a climber. Every time I try to climb, I fall. I daven, and I lose it, and I learn, and I can't. I'm so broken. I'm afar ve'efer. I'm nothing. What am I? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, take me. I can't climb. Carry me. Hold me. At the bottom of the ladder, we fall. This is what we do with the aravot. The aravot, the way you get to aravot is not by climbing. It's you hit the bottom. There's two ways to climb. Some people climb and they walk into the light. But some people go so far into the dark. It gets darker and darker. But at the end of the darkness, you end up in the same place. Because out of terror, you come running out of the darkness and I run to the light. I can walk into the light or I can go into the darkness. But both people end by the light. Either it was the peaceful journey into the light, or it was running in terror out of the darkness that you find yourself in. And that's the aravot. When we take the aravot in our hand and we hit them on the floor, what we're saying is, Hashem, I can't climb ladders. It's too hard. Look at me, I'm hitting the bottom. Take me to aravot. I'm clapping the Hashem on the floor. I have no leaves left. I'm just a branch, nothing. Hold me, Hashem. That's the aravot. And that's a level that you can only reach from Tsar. So there's two ways to reach Shamayim. You can walk, climb, step by step, one step at a time into Shamayim, or you can crash. You can hit the floor like the Hashanas and rise to Aravot. You see this dichotomy, these two different ways, right here in Churban in the clearest way. The Gemara in Bava Batra says that there's in the Kodesh Kadashim, in the holiest part of the Beit HaMikdash, there was the Aron, and on the Aron, on the ark, were two kruvim, two cherubs, two angels, one a young boy and one a girl. And the Gemara says that when Klal Yisrael was Osim Ritzono Shel Makom, when we were doing the will of Hashem, the two kruvim would embrace. They would hold each other in an embrace. And when Klal Yisrael was not doing the Ratzon Shel Hashem, they would separate, they would face away from each other. And on the Aron, in the Kodesh Kadashim, they'd be facing away, can't look at each other. And then the Gemara in Yuma, on Nundalad Amid Bet, if you look at the top of the Gemara, an unbelievable Gemara, they came to the Churban, and it goes on the words of Eicha, Kol Mechabdea Hizilua, those who used to honor the Beit HaMikdash now started to degrade her. What did they do? They went into the Beis HaMikdash, they took off the parochet, the curtain, and they saw, and behold, the kruvim were embraced, they were hugging each other. And the Romans came, and they took this, and they paraded it in the street. And they said, look at the Jews, we thought they were so holy, they're just like everybody else. Look, men, women, hugging. This is the Jews, the holy Jews. Kol mechabedeha hizilua. They degraded her kiro ervasa. They saw it was uncovered. And they showed the erva of the kruvim paraded in the street. But the question is, if the Gemara just told us in Bava Basra, told us that when the Jews were not doing the Ratzon Hashem, the kruvim faced away from each other. Is there any time where it was less the Ratzon Hashem than when it brought to the Churban? Is there a time when Hashem was angry with the Jews that he destroyed the Beis HaMikdash? So how could it be that when they open the Beis HaMikdash, all of a sudden they're embraced? Embracing is the good times, when everything's b'shalom, and there's ava, and there's peace, and there's Torah. When there's sinat chinam, and there's division, and there's anger from Hashem, churban, they're not hugging. So the answer is no. There's two different hugs. When you're in peace, and you're b'simcha, and you feel optimism, so then you feel simcha, and then you expand, and you open your eyes, and you become social, you go in the world, you want to hug everybody. And then we get broken. We do things wrong, we feel ashamed, we feel hurt, we lose our confidence, and we curl up into a little ball. And some people are embracing and going and living and reaching out, holding hands, giving hugs, reaching out, saving, being heroes, being important, living meaningful lives, and some people are curled up into a ball. But then what happens is the tsar gets so bad. The tsar gets worse and worse and worse. And finally, when the Churban comes, there's another hug. The first hug is the hug of the happy, confident, brave person who goes out, let me take my role in the world. But then you can get so broken that now you don't ask to hug. I don't want to hug you. I'm so sad and I'm so broken. I'm saying, hug me. Hashem, I'm not a hero. Hashem, save me. The first hug, the hug of the Kruvim in the Beis HaMikdash, when they did the will of Hashem, was a hug of love, a hug of optimism, a hug of simcha, a hug of shalom. And then when there's fights, they separate. But when the fight gets so bad and the darkness gets so terrible, then we huddle together in a whole different hug. Not the brave hug of a hero, but the hug of broken people. Hold me. Give me chizuk. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, hold me. And these are the two hugs. This is Purim, and this is Tisha B'Av. We live in the middle. We're not brave enough to go out in the world and be heroes like we wanted to once upon a time. I wanted to be a hero. I had all that I wanted to accomplish. I wanted to go give hugs. But I'm also not vulnerable enough. I'm not hurt enough. I'm not broken enough to beg people to hold me. I don't feel, I can't be so vulnerable. I can't go there. I'm not broken. So we sit and we grit our teeth and we have a stiff upper lip and we spend 80 years in between the two hugs sitting alone without anything. Not the hug of joy, not the hug of brokenness. And the Torah gives us two tools. On Purim we say, Mishenichnas Adar Marbim B'Simcha. We increase the Simcha. Let's increase the joy. Make everyone lebedik, full of light. Then they'll go hugging. When people are happy and confident and safe, they're expansive. And Purim comes, it's Ora V'Simcha V'Sason, all this joy, happiness, light. And we give gifts to each other. Matanos Levyonim, Ish L'Reyeyu, Shlach Manot. Everyone's expansive and living. There's no loneliness. It's all together. Everyone's drunk. What are we doing? We're just hugging. Everyone's a hug. Hug from one hug to the next hug. But then we lose that and we're in the brokenness. There's a whole other path. If you're in a dark tunnel, one way out of the tunnel is to marbim b'simcha, to push you towards the light. But sometimes we're so far into the tunnel that the only thing to do is mishenichnas av mematim b'simcha. We don't push you towards the confidence where you'll hug like out of joy, out of confidence. We'll push you further into the brokenness with the tsar. You focus on the tsar and you spend the whole day talking about tsar. When you feel the tsar to such a degree, then it's a whole different experience. When you feel the tsar, then the experience is the experience of the hug, of the brokenness. Hug me, I need you. And that's the hug of Tisha B'Av. Mematin b'simcha. There's two different tools. It's like a Swiss Army knife. Sometimes you need one tool. On Purim, we get you to live, to get out of loneliness with the confidence, with the happiness. And on Tisha B'Av, our goal is to get you to hug, but the second hug, the hug of huddling, broken together. Let's protect each other. Let's make each other feel safe. Let's warm each other. And that's the hug of Tisha B'Av. In Gan Eden, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Adam and Chava are hiding in the bushes. They're ashamed and they went to hide. So Hashem says He makes them kosnot or vayal bishem. He makes them clothing of skin and He dresses them. And that's supposed to somehow encourage them to come out of the bushes. The Medrash tells us that, you know what the story is? Adam and Chava used to have garments made out of fingernail. The whole guf was covered in this material. And then Hashem made them kosnotar, not that He made them animal skins. He gave them flesh, the Medrash says. That's when they got skin. It was replaced. No longer did they have this protective suit of armor, but now they were given real human skin. And the question is whether that's literal or a metaphor. The idea, what's the message? What does that mean? How is that going to encourage you to come out of hiding if you're scared and you're hiding in the bushes? So I need to give you a suit of armor. I need to give you something strong to protect you. Not to take away your suit of armor and give you vulnerable flesh that bruises, that cuts, that bleeds. How does Hashem trying to get them out of the bushes by giving them skin? They already had something far better and that wasn't good enough. And the answer is exactly this. This is the story Achar Achet. This is after Churban. This is after the sin. The way to come to Hashem after sin is not armor, it's not safety, it's not confidence. Hashem took away the armor and He gave them vulnerable skin. Once you have chet and you're in the darkness, the way to come to Hashem is to feel the darkness. The tool to get Adam and Chava out of the bushes was not come out, hug me. Is ask me to hug you. Let me in. Feel vulnerable. Let me take off your protective shell and give you real skin. And then you'll feel how sad, and then you'll feel vulnerable, and then you'll beg for that kind of hug. That's the hug of Churban. That's the hug of Tisha B'Av. I'll tell you a story. I used to live in a rural area in Pennsylvania. It was a Revolutionary War town. Everything was old, and there was this tunnel, a little like one-lane tunnel meant for horses, made out of old stones. One car could only go through at a time. You had to take turns which direction. But it was a small thing, and not everyone knew about it. And one day I came there, and I saw a man putting a wreath of flowers and like a school jacket, hanging it up on the wall. And I've been on enough highways to know what that means. If you drive along highways, unfortunately, often you see flowers on the side of the road with a hat, there's a little sign. When there are accidents, somehow people go to the spot, not where they're buried, but they put them in the spot of the accident. And there was this man, and I saw this wreath on the wall. I came there, and there's a wreath on the wall. And I was very moved by it. It's a small little town. It wasn't on the highway. I used to pass it all the time. And I was thinking, like, what does that mean, you see a wreath? Somebody loved something. Someone cared so deeply. Somebody is so vulnerable and invested. They lost something, and they still feel it. Most people, we live in that spot in between. We can't hug people, we're not brave enough. And we're not vulnerable enough or broken enough to ask for a hug. And we sit our entire lives curled up into a little ball. Not confident enough to reach out, but not safe enough or anything not suffering enough to ask for a hug. And is there anything sadder? And he was a man who was feeling. I used to drive by all the time. And every time I would see it, I would be moved. And then one day it struck me that these flowers aren't getting old. Usually you drive on the highway and in a week that they're dying, and then 2 weeks later they're brown, and then eventually somebody cleans them up and they're gone. How long do they last? A few months. But these flowers, every week, somebody was putting new flowers. And I would pay attention then, I would drive by, and I couldn't believe that someone can love and feel for so long. And I would go there again and again. And for 2 months, every week, there were new flowers. It was an unbelievable thing. Someone doesn't let go. Who is this person? And I used to pay attention. I would dafka go. Instead of going the way I should go, the shortcut, I would go a long way to always pass by. Is there really new flowers? And after 2 months, I couldn't believe it. I started to want something differently. I stopped looking for flowers, and now I wanted to catch this guy. I want to see who this is. Who is this person who, in a world where we all let go and we say whatever, we move on, who's a person who can love so deeply? Who's a person who can be so vulnerable? Who's a person who can scream out something that's not coming back? I want to meet him. I want to grab this person. I want to tell them, you know how inspiring you are? And I would fantasize, and I'm going to get there once. I'm going to see him. I'm going to jump out of my car. I'm going to go over to this guy. I'm going to give him a hug. I'm going to say, you don't know me. I don't know you, but I watched this for months. You and your flowers. I'm a rabbi. Can you come to my synagogue, talk to my people? Everyone's hiding. Everyone's numb. You are the most living person in the world. Teach us. Show us. You're my Rabbi. I never met him. And I moved away, and I haven't been there in years. I don't know if there are still flowers. I don't know if they're there. But let me ask you a question. Can you imagine what would have happened if, let's say, I was driving around one day, and I finally got my wish, and I bumped into this guy. I come over the hill, look down, and I think, wow, I finally caught him. He's there by the flowers. I speed down the bottom. I park the car. I jump out before he can leave. I run over to the guy. I grab him. I say, you don't know who I am, but I'm in awe of you. I've been watching you. I never saw someone love so deeply, someone so vulnerable, someone so real. How come you're not gritting your teeth? How come you don't have a stiff upper lip? How are you so open, so raw? Imagine what would happen if the guy would turn to me and he would say, Rabbi, I'm sorry. I'm just a florist. There's a credit card on file, and every week we put a new wreath on. Betrayal. For 2,000 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits in Shamayim, and he watches us come on Tisha B'Av. The most inspiring vision in the world, a nation that comes in with no shoes and no eating, and we open the kinot and we cry and we cry. 2,000 years, new flowers every year. Can you imagine the joy and the excitement the Rabbi Shalom must have? Until he actually comes down into our shul and goes inside of our heads. And he sees that we're all just a bunch of florists. Is it chatzot yet? Can I go home? What are we going to eat tonight? You really going to stay for all the speeches? Nah, I'm going to go home. Florists. How would HaKadosh Baruch Hu feel? How does HaKadosh Baruch Hu feel? Listen, I don't want to, maybe I do want to. Are we here to push you into the darkness, into the tsar further that will scream help? But I can't leave it like this. We're not florists. I want to give you a big chizuk. Anybody else in the world is giving a speech and you want to speak to people, you want to move them. Like any rabbi is going to speak, we're thinking, what's going to be a good speech? In the outside world, you want to give a speech. How am I going to make everybody feel great? I'm going to make them laugh. I'm going to make them light up. I'm going to cast away their doubts. I'm going to make them proud of themselves. I'm going to tell them all the things that they want that are not real and who they are is perfect. Make everybody feel good. But when a rabbi comes to speak to a shul of Jews, what do? We're thinking, what is the most moving story? How can I hit them the hardest? Mi ka'amcha Yisrael, is there anyone as beautiful as us? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, yes, we're a bunch of florists. But we love being told we're florists. Tell me, find me my flaws, Hashem. I want to be good. I want to love you. I want to be an Oved. Everyone's coming here thinking, what is the best way to tell you how to be better? Unbelievable. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. We can stand there and call us names, the better names. I'll go home. He called me a florist. Oh, what musar. Mi ka'amcha Yisrael. And the truth is, we're not florists. There's no credit card that we're billing. We're here. We're trying to feel. We want to feel. It's hard to feel. Hashem, help me feel. This story is really a story from the Torah. Kayol ta'aro galafike mayim. Everyone knows this Tehillim? Membet, 42. One of the most beautiful Tehillim. Kayol ta'aro galafike mayim. Like an antelope, longingly waiting by the afike mayim. What are afike mayim? We all read this, it's moving, but we don't even know what it's saying. What do we think afike mayim means? Like an antelope, longingly sitting, drinking. What's he doing? By a pool? Is afikim a pool? What's afikim? So you know what afikim is? Where do we find the word afikim? You know where the word afikim comes from. Where's afikim? Shir HaMalot, what do we say? Ka'afikim ba'negev. Like afikim, what kind of water is in the Negev? A Negev is a desert. There's no water in a desert. So what must afikim mean? The meaning of afikim must be, afikim is maybe an oasis. Oh, so now that's a nice song. Ka'afikim kayol taroig, like an antelope longingly drinking by the oasis of the water. No, but that's not what it means either, because if you read further in the pasuk, what does it say? Ka'ayol taro galafike mayim, kein nafshi sara gelecha Hashem. So too my soul longs for you, Hashem. Tzamol nafshi le'elokim, my soul thirsts for you, Hashem. Mosai ovoi ve'eroa pnei elokim. When will you come already, and I will be able to see you? It's talking about over here water. What do you mean that Hashem's not here? The oasis is here. It was saying that just like an antelope sits taroig longingly by the afike mayim, so too do I long for you, Hashem. When are you going to come? So we're not talking about an oasis. What afikim means, afikim are the dry riverbeds in the desert where there's no water and it's dry. And when it rains a lot far away, then there are flash floods. And the waters finally come rushing in those dry riverbeds. Once, twice, a whole year. These riverbeds spring to life. That's afikim. The word ofek in Hebrew means horizon. Afikim are the waters that come from over the horizon, the faraway waters that come rushing in. Now do you understand the song? Kayol taroi galafike mayim, like an antelope longingly waits by the dried riverbed. There's no water there, but yet he's longing. He's not gritting his teeth. He's not saying whatever, who needs it. He's sitting there vulnerable, letting it all hang out, wanting, needing. Kayol taroi galafike mayim, what emunah. In the deepest darkness, there's no water, you're in a desert, but he's sitting there confident, longing, dreaming, putting out his wreath. So too do I wait for you, Hashem. That's the longing. Our soul longs for you in the darkness. This is the longing of Tisha B'Av. But I want to show you the pain of Churban. I saw this I already made my speech, and then I saw this when they were saying Eicha. Maybe this, after I told you this idea, maybe these are the saddest words in Eicha. The symbol of hope in darkness is this ayal, this antelope. Picture the antelope sitting by a dried out riverbed, but sitting there longing, willing to dream. Nobody can dream if you don't believe it's coming true. You have to say, you can only dream if you think it'll be answered. So the ayal believes. You can't break the ayal. The darker it is, you're not going to break him. But then we read over here, Vayetze mibat Zion kol hadara. All of the splendor left the daughter of Zion. Hayu sareha. The princes of the Jewish people became ka'ayalim lo matzu mireh, like antelopes that didn't find their sustenance. Vayelchu b'lo koach b'li lifnei rodef. And they went without strength before their pursuers. Eicha is describing that they even broke the antelope. The day that the antelope stopped waiting and stopped dreaming. The symbol of longing, the ayol taroi, the longing antelope, kayol taroi galafike moyim, even that they broke. That ayol, is there a sadder image than the ayol with its head hung? Being led away, not fighting, not dreaming. Loimotsu mireh, the ayil that waits for dreams for thousands of years. That's Churban. And although maybe they broke the ayil, for us, that's the bottom of the pit. That image should be enough to get us to scream out the magic words. Hashem, hug me, hold me. I don't want to hug anyone anymore. I'm not strong enough. I'm weak. They got my ayil. They killed the ayil. They broke the ayil. No more, Hashem. Hug us. Save us. How much more ugly can it get? How much more tsar? An ayil? You let them take the ayil? This is Tisha B'Av. To connect to Hashem through the darkness of the tunnel. Forget the light, it's too far. This is what we say in the Ani Mamins. There are 13 Ani Mamins. The Rambam says, I believe in Biat Mashiach, but he doesn't stop there. Ani Mamim, Afal Pisha Yismameya, Im Kolzeh Achakeloi. Even though he's late, I'm waiting. The Brisker Rav says that that's part of the mitzvah. You can't just believe in Mashiach. If you believe in Mashiach and you're not hungering for him and waiting for him, you didn't do the mitzvah. The mitzvah of a Jew that brings the Geulah is longing, is to recover the ayal. I'm waiting longingly. Nothing is going to break me. I want to end with one last metaphor. It's not good enough that it doesn't break you. If you're just going to try and survive being broken, then you're treading water. Nobody can tread water forever. The Jewish picture of what happens when we each reach the end of our rope. My last metaphor. We have a mitzvah called Peyote. Many people, Hasidim, some Sfardim, even some people in yeshiva, we grow Peyote. Because the Torah has a mitzvah that says, Lo sechale pat roshcha. You can't obliterate, you can't totally remove your Peyote. And there's a similar mitzvah on the corners of your field. You're not allowed to harvest totally the corners of the field. You have to allow the corners of your field to grow, and you have to allow the corners of your head to grow. But there's one more mitzvah in the Torah about corners. You know what it is? What's the last mitzvah of corners? The most obvious one. Tzitzit. Any garment that has 4 corners, you have to attach fringes and strings to the 4 corners. The Torah seems to have a pattern that when there are corners, it wants to have stuff dangling off your corners. Field corners, face corners, garment corners. What's the message? What's a corner? A corner is when you end. A corner is when you're boxed into a corner. A corner is the perimeter, the border, the boundary. When you've ran out of room, when you run into the walls, when everything's closed and there's no more hope, there's a corner. It's over. There's nowhere else to go. We reach the border, the perimeter, the end, the boundary. Tisha B'Av tells us that when we reach the boundary, when you push me to Aravot and you knock me down to the bottom, that's where we start. A corner is not an end. Tzitzit means projections. Peyote. The idea is the sign of a Jew on your garments. You look at tzitzit and what do you say? We don't end. When all is over and it's the darkest and it's the bottom, that's where we start. The tzitzit define a Jew. The peyote say, I don't end. My field doesn't end. My face doesn't. There are no ends. We rise from the dust. Not despite the dust, because of the dust. We spoke about the Aravot. He hung his harp on Aravot. Because Aravot are the service of Hashem of brokenness. The closeness that I get to Hashem when I hit the bottom. I have nothing. We spoke about the hug, like the Aravot, that comes from Churban. The hug that comes when you have nothing. We spoke about the garments that don't protect you, that allow you to come to Hashem because you have nothing. The flesh, the harava, the flesh, the hug after Churban of the Kruvim. We spoke about the Ayol Taroig. We spoke about Achakaloi, Afal Pishis Maneya, and the Tzitzit and the Peyot. The message to take away is that, of course, there's a path to Hashem to walk into the light. Torah, mitzvot. But there's another path to Hashem. And that's the path to Hashem that might even be faster and quicker and higher. It's the tzar from brokenness. The tzar, the path that brings you to the highest level of Shemayim. Mashiach is born on Tisha B'Av. The Geulah takes place here. We still wait for him. May we find the brokenness in us when we move ourselves to that darkest place so that we actually feel the tzar and it breaks us and we cry out to Hashem, Rabbi Shalom, hug me. And we be zeichet that the Rabbi Shalom should envelop us in his arms and should give us the hug that only the Geulah could be.